Well, hello, patrons. Thank you for joining us. Joey, Jeff, and soon Steve will join us. It's been a while since we've chatted, hasn't it been? We just got off a wild tour. It was very intense. It was
one of the hardest things we've done, I think.
Yeah.
One of them.
Yeah. I would say it's the most difficult tour we've done.
Yeah,
The most intense.
I would say that.
Right.
Definitely. I mean, we didn't have any days off, and we had many calamities happen that we had to overcome.
Yep. Blown transmission being one of those.
But the tour was a success nonetheless, so really excited about that.
We accomplished everything we meant to. It was great touring with Jason and Luke and Stolas. They're all really great people. Great crew. Very grateful. And so grateful to all of you who made it out. We got to shake your hands and chat with you. And that's always special for us. I think that when things get really difficult, that is the one thing for me personally that kind of rejuvenates me, is like getting to see people and just feeling the support and seeing how much the music means to you. I don't know. It gives me strength. So thank you for that, and thank you in advance for continuing to come out to shows and being a part of what we're trying to do here. Pretty wild. We started this 11 years ago.
That's crazy. I feel like we were just saying it was 10 years. Like, it felt like that was yesterday.
That was yesterday. Well, now is when the years just start flying.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense. It's crazy to me.
We have an 11-year-old baby. We're parents.
Yeah. We've been married for 11 years to each other. It's really romantic.
In many ways, it feels like this band feels new, though. That's the thing. It doesn't feel like 11 years for this band, because it's always changing, always new music, always new stuff we're doing. But it's just been a part of my life, our lives forever. So, but thinking that it's 11 years and thinking about that benchmark is fucking insane.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. It makes me feel a little bit old. We're almost as old as an entire grade school career, which is really interesting.
Well, my sister Olivia, she is 13 right now. So she was 2, just turning 2 when we started. She's a little baby. Now she's in high school. That's weird as fuck. Just looking at that.
Yeah, seeing how big they are.
Yeah.
Some of you weren't even born yet when we started. No, I'm just kidding. We're not that old. 11-year-olds. I mean, we did meet some fans actually on this tour that were not as old as the band. Had a couple kids come out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're right. I never thought about that, awesome. Actually.
Oh, I can't remember the name. Which makes me really inconsiderate.
That's bizarre.
Steven is having trouble connecting. Give me 1 sec.
Steven is... Me and Joe are here in Joey's apartment in Astoria. And Steven is in Buffalo, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Buffalo. He's in Below at the moment here. Let's
the land of the beautiful river.
That is what that's supposed to mean, right?
Beau Fleuve, which is like beautiful river in French.
Oh, here's Steven. I detect Steven. Steven, are you with us?
Yes, I see you. I don't know if you can see me yet.
No, you're just an avatar right now.
It's probably better that way.
We were just kind of talking about how it's been 11 years. We were reflecting on the tour and how insane it was, and just taking stock in the 11-year benchmark. We're almost as old as a grade school career. And we got to meet some fans on this tour that actually aren't as old as this band is, which is really cool. A couple couple little fans that were pretty amazing to meet. So that's always neat. Is your camera not working?
Oh, hang on 1 second. I think I remember this from last time. Can you guys hear me okay, though?
Yeah, we hear you.
Let me see.
Anywho, so thank you guys for joining us. We're We'll chat about a couple of things. Oh, there he is. We'll chat about a couple of things. One of those things being Obsolete, and the making of that song. That song has a lot of. It's one of my favorite songs that we've done on a lot of different levels. It means a lot lyrically to me, and I think to us.
What does it mean lyrically?
So it's kind of addressing the feeling that I have that I'm kind of slowly being left behind. The world is kind of caught on this wild like roller coaster of like innovation and new technologies, and it seems that all these things, they don't feel reliable to me, so I don't really like cling to them, but it seems that everyone else is full on into it. At least that's my perception. That's my projection of it, right? And even in my own industry where I work, like recording and audio, you know, it's just like a rat race to stay on top of like the latest technology, the latest plugins, the latest expectations and industry standards. And it seems to be moving, I perceive it to be moving exponentially faster than it was. And I know that things are moving faster than they were, but I also know that I'm older and I'm perceiving time in a different way as well. So
I kind of think it's both in this case, actually.
Sure.
Because it's definitely like, it's definitely as the tale goes when we get older, you know, we're not up with the new pop stars or whatever. We naturally rebel against new things. I truly believe.
Sure.
But things are happening at an exponential pace in this time, at this time in history. So we're kind of, we've never as a species experienced this amount of, I guess, the speed of how everything is going.
Sure. So that makes one feel very, very left behind and very kind of isolated and alone a little bit. And so there's a bit of like fist shaking in the song, kind of like someone else is doing this to me, you know, that kind of, that's what it feels like. Like there's these people, there's just these people in a room that are like, let's innovate so that they can struggle. And I think that someone who lives at my socioeconomic rung is probably, who depends on the technology for their livelihood, might be able to relate a little bit more, because staying updated is a game that you can play if you can afford to play it. You know, I just listened to the Joe Rogan podcast with Reggie Watts, and I love both those guys. But, you know, they were talking about like the latest phones and like where all these devices, where the stuff's going. And they're talking like, oh yeah, I own this and I have this. And, you know, some of them own some of these things and they've never even unboxed them. That's just like what their life is like right now. And I'm not jealous of that, but I recognize that unless you have the kind of money where you're just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to get like the latest of everything because it's fun, it becomes a fun and exciting thing. And you don't have to rely on it for your livelihood. It's just fun, you know, and it gets to be just that. Whereas for me, I look at it more as like my band depends on our ability to stay relevant in an ever-changing landscape on the internet, which requires you to stay up to date, requires you to have the latest gizmos. In audio, I have to have, you know, to stay relevant in the audio world, I have to be up to date. I have to buy a new Pro Tools system. I have to, you know, the list goes on. And so in my position, I feel like I am poised to feel especially bitter at the pace of things. And I know that it's just where I'm standing. You know, I think a lot of people, they don't have as complicated of a relationship with the innovation of technology as maybe I do or some of us in this band do.
I think that you just don't care as much, really. I mean, I don't. I'm more of a functional person. I want to be able to just do what I want to do and then let that ride for a while. I don't really have too much of an interest in technology and the way things are going. I mean, I definitely am interested, but we are like our friend Dan Barrett, or even Danny, to a certain degree. Those people they're naturally just interested, which helps them. It would help us if we were more interested than we were, but we're left to feel obsolete because we are really, you know. I don't care about the new phone, really. I have a phone that works great and does everything I need it to do. I even felt the pull when I saw of my friend Liz's phone. Her camera on it is incredible. I think it was the iPhone 7. It's like, even seeing that, I was like, whoa, I want the iPhone 7 so I can take pictures with that. And then I caught myself, I'm like, I don't really want to, though. Like,
Yeah, but your phone's probably gonna break or not work as well, or
yeah.
be so behind on updates or not compatible with the newest update that within a year or two you're going to have an iPhone 7 or something, and then that will be behind.
And how often do I really think I'm going to take pictures with this phone? You know, like I barely take pictures as it is. So I'm like, oh, but if I had this nice camera, I would take more. And I might for a minute, and then I forget I have a camera on it. That's just the way I am.
It's a temporary fascination,
Yeah.
you know. Anyways,
Final attempt to reach you regardless.
that is kind of the gist of what the song is about. Musically, it's it's a really fun exploration. I mean, it's got this very like 07 meets Radiohead kind of feel, and I love both those bands and both those production styles. So from the crafting of those songs, I really enjoy that approach. So
What are you doing there, Steve?
I don't know what Steve's doing.
Sorry, I'm at my parents' house. This phone just started ringing, and I feel like it's gonna, with my luck, it'll probably keep ringing. So I was trying to find a way to turn it off, but I couldn't do it subtly or sneakily.
You can unplug it, plug it.
Yeah.
Musically, there's the song that started from nothing. No one came in with an idea. I think that Steve and Rocco were just jamming on something at the retreat, right?
Steve started playing that bass line, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even though it wasn't, it was pretty spur of the moment, I was specifically thinking of that Radiohead song off of Hail to the Thief that I still can't remember the name of, but with that repetitive bass line, doom, 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 doom.
Something about a wedding? No.
I don't know what their song names are always so weird, but
yeah.
Whatever that song was, I was thinking it could be cool to kind of channel that idea, have a bass line that's real repetitive. So I started messing around with that bass line. And what's funny is I wasn't really even feeling it that much, but as soon as Rocco started playing those chords, then it was like, oh, and that's when we kept going. It was really the chords that Rocco was playing over it that made it, that got me excited about it, because that happens all the time. You're kind of playing something, and after 30 seconds, you're like, eh. But you wait for that moment of, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of what I mean. That it was just as likely that it would have happened that way. Maybe more likely, because most of us weren't even in the room. I think we went out to grab something to eat or just walk around.
Yeah. It was just me and Rocco in the room.
Yeah.
And we weren't even going to start writing that night. That was the night we got there, and we were just kind of settling in and hanging.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was the first night. We weren't even going to really jam or do anything. That's what I love about going away and doing those retreats we've been doing, because at any moment, whenever you feel like it, just walk over to an instrument. If you feel inspired, someone's going to join you, and then from there, boom, like a song that we all really dig. And I love that. I love the magic of that.
I remember going into this retreat, I was excited, and coming out of it, I was like, man, I think we just came up with a bunch of shit that did not work. I was the least, I won't say least excited, I was the most concerned with our productivity and what I actually liked.
I'm going to disagree with you, man. I think I was probably just as concerned. I was really discouraged leaving that writing session.
I was as well.
Yeah, but the songs for me are, those 3 songs we did are 3 of my favorites now, which is wild to think about. Obsolete being, yeah, that holds a special place for me. I really, really, really love that song.
I think
It's been growing on me. I think at first I had, which this happens all the time, and it's one of those things that ends up being so good in the long run, but so hard to grapple with in the short term. But like I said, I really had too specific of a vision in the beginning stages of it, and I wanted, there was a Radiohead element and vibe that is definitely there, but there were just specific things about it that I wanted that we didn't quite get. So initially in my brain, it was like slightly wide of the mark, but I knew that that was just me, and that it always helps for somebody to not even share that specific vision, because then it turns into something that I couldn't have envisioned, you know, like, which is ultimately a good thing. But at first I was like, I wanted to really dive into more. We did, but I wanted to dive more into a soundscape that we hadn't explored, get a lot more trippy and experimental. It ended up being a little more straight ahead than I wanted, but that's not a bad thing. But personally, that was one of the ones that at first I was like, usually when we have the mixes, I'll listen to it 50 times in a row. And this is kind of the ones after a couple of times I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, you know. But what's funny is as it's going on, I go back. And then when I did the 8-bit remix of it, during that process, I was starting to appreciate it a little bit more in a way that wasn't based on or in reference to my original thought that didn't happen.
The ending of the 8-bit made me laugh a lot. Actually.
Oh yeah, my
I was not
screaming
expecting.
solo. That made me laugh too. It's a good sign with something if you can make yourself laugh.
yeah.
it's just goofy.
I kind of wanted to chat a little bit because I was exploring a new technique for like coming up with melodies on that tune and on these last three, and I really like it so far. I'm going to keep trying it because I think that there's plenty of fruit on the vine. Basically, I talked to you guys about it, but I'll just kind of share this for the listeners because a lot of people do this. This is not a new technique; it's just new to me. Where I would take the recording of the instrumental demo that we would record at the cabin, and I would try to come up with the melodies and phrasing for the vocal without my voice. I would try to hear it in my head, or I'd play it on the piano and try to come up with melody and phrasing that was strong enough where that alone could carry the song to a degree. Obviously, adding voice makes things more compelling to more people because we're humans and a human voice is what we're going to respond to naturally. But that was part of the reason why I didn't want to write with a human voice, because I didn't want to hide behind the smokescreen or the bias of like, oh, it's singing, and singing in general sets, draws a certain amount of hopefully positive attention to itself, regardless of the merit of the quality of the melody or phrasing that's being used or implemented. So if I could take a really boring piano sample and come up with melody and phrasing over the stuff that I thought was cool, just that, then I knew it once I wrote lyric and emoted and performed the vocal according to that melody, that the result should be more powerful, it should be more potent and more desirable. And I think that so far that's been the case for all three tunes. I'm probably most proud of the vocal melodies on these three tunes of this batch, and put the most amount of time into them as well, because that process is by far the most time-consuming process. I must have spent a couple hours at least on each song, just going back with MIDI and writing this, and then going back and writing lyrics to fit those phrases and those melodies. So I feel like I really found a process that that will yield consistently better results than simply like feeling out like, oh, my voice feels good singing this over this thing. And that's not to say there isn't a time and a place for that. And when we write, I'll always explore what comes naturally, and based on your guys' reaction to what I'm doing and my own reaction, that will help me gauge whether or not the quality of that is where I want it to be. But now there's not as much, it kind of gives me a nice peace of mind because there's not as much of a pressure to like come up with all of it that way and have it all be of the quality that I'm after. I can have a couple great spots that I really like when we're writing an idea now, and I can know like once I implement this process, I'm going to have the best possible melody that I can come up with, and best possible phrasing and best possible like use of lyrics. So in a way, it's liberating, and I theorize that it will be a noticeable difference in quality. And I'm curious as to whether or not whether or not it's totally placebo, or you guys are feeling like the melodies are,
Well, I hear the difference
in general, and the phrases are generally stronger than previous stuff that I've come up with.
Yes, so stronger. I would say. I mean, more refined. You know, like more interest. They're more interesting, and they. I think that these melodies, they kind of weave in and out really well. They're very articulate, I guess is the word. There's well, I won't mention any band names for the sake, but there's a couple of bands that come to mind, and some bands that we know here in the city where they're so good, and their songs just don't quite go there. And I'm like, you guys, like, if their songs if they spend a little bit more time on coming up with a better melody for a chorus, or making the chorus a pre-chorus and doing something else, like just pushing yourself that much further it makes the biggest difference. And I feel like that's what's going on here, Joe, is yeah, it's more defined. The melodies are going somewhere. There's a beginning, middle, and an end, and things connect. Because you can write them out on a keyboard, and you're not confined by what your voice can do. There's natural jumps that your voice can do, and others that you don't, right?
This process has caused me to have to learn how to sing these melodies. My voice doesn't naturally do the things that I can write on a piano. So in a lot of ways, it's also helped me to grow in that regard, which has been really cool. And I think, to touch on what you were saying, I think that as we progress in our music making career, I'm starting to see this process as less mystical, less magical, like, oh, it's just like what's the secret ingredient, and more like, oh, there are actually like, there's skills and there's a time-tested process that like the greats implemented. It wasn't just like, I think we have it's a big temptation to believe that your favorite artists were just born with immense talent, and the skills they developed, well, that's just because they're so talented. And I'm starting to realize more like, no, they worked really hard as well. Yeah, sure, there's got to be a base level of talent, of course. But I feel like a lot of our friends and peers have that base level of talent. And what then takes you to the level of, you know, a Stevie Wonder is the combination of that talent and a work ethic to refine skills. There are processes and skills that you actually learn from other people. They don't fall from the sky, or like, oh, it just lightning struck and here it is. You know, it's
a craft.
I'm believing less and less in that, like, kind of like, oh, well, I'm just waiting for the muse to give me the right notes. You know, it's like, and more in the process. Like, no, you sit down and this is how you come up with good melodies. And this is study the craftsmanship of other melodies. There's a method, and the method matters. And that is what creates the magic, is a high functioning skill level with the talent and with the time and man hours put into implementing the method and skills. That's what yields you the results. And I think I think that's really refreshing in a lot of ways for me, because I feel like more in control, or at least have the illusion of control. Like, well, I can now determine how good something is that I make, because did I do it? Did I do the work? Am I being arrogant and demanding that the process that I stumbled upon as a human is the best one, and that's the way I do it? I think no. Now I can know, like, well, no, you should research like your favorites, research the greats, and study their process and see what makes them tick. You can do something about it. You don't just have to sit there and be like, oh, I wish I was as talented as so and so. And that's not to say like, oh, if I work hard enough, I can be a Stevie Wonder. No one can be a Stevie Wonder. But no one can be what I am, and no one can be what any other artist is either, because it's that unique combination of your baseline of talent and your cumulative experience, musical experience, and inspirations that influence you, plus your work ethic and your skill sets and methods that you learn and build off of. So I think it's encouraging to know I can continue to become a better version of myself, and there are ways for improving on that. And that, I believe that's true of any musician who is obsessed with making music and creating music.
Yeah, I think a good example of that would be, there's a song, I think it was Let Me Be or whatever, but it's just an example that comes to mind where we are following the melody and where you were going lyrically, and that's how we chose to go into the bridge of a song. It was kind of like, well, how do we get into the bridge?
Oh yeah.
We're like, let me be, let me, and then the B is the down of the bridge or whatever. I think it was something like that, right? But we are letting the vocal melody dictate where we are going with that particular song, that particular part.
Sure.
Which is very, what's the word? That's intentional. You know, like that's not something we're just like, oh, it just like, we just happened. It's like, no, we're in a room for fucking hours and we're like, how do we make this work?
And I think you recognize like the importance that melody has in composition.
Yeah.
You know, and the more I like read about Quincy Jones, you know, he melody is king. He preaches it, you know, and I think you do it long enough, or maybe you don't have to do it very long to recognize that. Like that's everything. If you don't have that, you can have a really cool arrangement in an amazing band that does all of these cool things and has all these textures and production elements, and that's all well and good. But if you don't have a good melody, it's not going to really resonate with anyone. And I think that surrendering to melody is a technique. It's a method that people use. And so that's what I think that's what we're trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do anyways, consciously.
What's interesting to me, I almost feel like it's two different roads to the same destination.
Sure.
Because there are definitely some songs we've written in the past where you are just feeling it, and you do naturally have a great ear for melody. And I think that if you would have, what's interesting to me is I think that if you would have taken this process and applied it to some of our older songs, they might not have had, they might not have been, the thing is, I don't know like what makes a good melody as opposed to a bad melody. Like October Storm, I remember writing that in the basement in a matter of hours. It was literally done, good to go. I think we recorded it, like you wrote lyrics in the next couple days. I remember the turnaround for that song was a matter of days. And if you would have sat down and dissected it and gotten real intricate and experimental and almost like, you know, kind of what you did with these three songs, I think it would have taken some. I mean, that song is what it is. I can't imagine it being any better. Your vocals.
Sure.
And the interesting thing about that is like, that's very true. I think we went into that, what I remember, we went into that song kind of like, well, fuck it. We need to write a song for the Japanese version of Rhythm, Chord, and Melody. Let's just go in the basement and see what happens. And it came out, right?
Yeah.
So we, in a way, I kind of remember us just like, it was almost a throwaway. We're just like, well, what do we do? Well, let's just like fucking write a song right now. And in a way, that was the process that enabled that too. You know what I mean? it was almost, we had permission to not overthink it. And there's something to that as well.
Yeah, and I would, to your point, Steve, I think that's a good point. I would say that, you know, then we were all operating with base knowledge of composition. You know, it's not like I had no idea about what makes a melody enjoyable or effective. You know, I wasn't coming in with a blank canvas of like, oh, I am influenced by nothing, and let's just see, you know, if I just take these notes and see how they work. You know, I think they're like anything, like any skill set. You know, if you, like a plumber is going to go fix a leak and has to cut out a section of pipe and then weld a new piece of pipe. You have to learn how to do that before you can do that. But if you watch a plumber do it, it doesn't look like the plumber is referencing any methodology. It's just flowing. It's just like they were born to do it. That's what it appears. But what's actually happening is the plumber's methodology is so well ingrained in them that there's no, they don't have a book, you know. They're like, okay, so next I'm gonna cut the pipe here and set the cut to this and set the welding temperature to this. You know, they just, now it's just art. You know, for them it's part of them now. And I think that because we grew up with music, we had the advantage of having a baseline of knowledge just from growing up listening to great knowledge. I grew up listening to Stevie Wonder and Michael Jackson, and we, you know, you did as well. So it doesn't feel like I have to like stop and think about it. And now that I'm trying to stop and think about it a little bit, I'm kind of just saying like, okay, like I'm where I'm at because of all the incidental exposure I've had to music through my life. And now I'm trying to do is be more deliberate about learning things that are more foreign to me. And that's what this process is. This is kind of like more educational for me. Like, well, I also like these songs, but I don't really, I feel like there's more to learn. I can go deeper with it.
Oh yeah.
And so I think that it's building off of that. So to your point, I feel like I can write a good melody just naturally. Like something's, yeah, that's pretty good. But I like the idea of going deeper. It's fun. It's more fun for me to like go deeper and like, all right, now let's see if I can explore some things now. Because I don't want to, I'm terrified of plateauing, you know? And you've known me a long time, and I have trouble like just doing the same thing that I did last time, you know? There's probably a chance that in a couple of writing sessions, I'll like look at this technique and be, okay, I squeezed that fruit dry. Let me try something totally different and just throw myself off. I think I enjoy making myself a little bit uncomfortable because as long as I feel like it's facilitating learning something new and gaining a new skill set. If I'm a little uncomfortable while I'm learning something new, I think that assures me I'm doing a good thing because I'm not just stagnating. Because if I'm comfortable all the time, I'm not learning anything. I'm not being challenged.
Of course. I mean, I think it's great that you're doing this new approach, and I think that everything you just said is spot on. It's always important to try a different way, see what comes out. Some of like the coolest parts that I ended up doing on the drums only happened because I was on the SPDS and limited to that. And from that limitation, coming up with a part that seemed cool on there, then translating it to the kit, I wouldn't have come up with that if it wasn't on the kit. But that's why I'm saying, in my opinion, there are two different roads to the same destination.
Sure.
The only thing especially for me, what makes Obsolete are the vocals, and then Let Me Be too. Well, yeah, all these three songs, they're really cool. How you're you go all over the place. And even the one that we haven't released yet, when I first heard it, I was like, there's nothing to hold on to. This is like, I don't even know, it almost sounds like free form singing along. But after a few listens, it's like, oh, actually, no, this is beautiful. And I especially loved it. But what I I guess what I don't relate to with what you guys are saying, I don't hear those 3 songs from you vocally as being better
Mm.
than some of the other songs you used to do vocally. I just see them as different and still absolutely and enjoyable, and I love them.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, even
Like,
Paul
but
McCartney.
what was that?
I was saying that, I think I said this before, but even Paul McCartney, when he was asked by Stephen Colbert, he's like, did you know you were writing, the most iconic songs that while you were writing them? And Paul McCartney laughed, he's like, no, we were just learning, like Yesterday and all of those. I mean, every single tune to go down the list. Like for Paul and John, they were like trying to come up with something new that George Martin, that they would use. They had no idea what they were doing. They were just doing it and learning throughout the process. So as long as we're still learning and pushing ourselves, that's good.
Oh, totally. Because what the goal is the song that comes out. So the process of the song coming out is almost more for us than anybody else. And for the hope that in 5 years we're going to be doing something that we're not able to do right now. But I don't know. To me, what I always found an interesting conversation to have is whether or not you can say, or how to determine when something is better musically than something else. It's always hard to articulate correctly, because I believe that Pat Metheny's music is much better than Katy Perry's music. It's just something that I know, but I can't prove or something.
Sure. I think that goes back to that conversation of the subjectivity in music and how, certain music resonates with certain people based on an infinite number of variables. And Pat Metheny's music is always going to resonate with you like infinitely more than something like Katy Perry or, a modern top 40 pop production, just doesn't do anything for you. And that doesn't mean that one is necessarily objectively better than the other. You can study like certain variables. You can zoom in and be like, well, let's just zoom in on how many notes are in Pat Metheny's melodic phrases versus how many notes are in Katy Perry's, and how many time changes are in his composition versus, Katy Perry's, and what's the instrumentation? Let's study that. There's all these variables you can put under a microscope and be like, well, is this it? Well, is this why? Is this why? And the end result is it's just the cumulative effect of all those variables and all these intangibles that make Pat Metheny's music resonate with you and certain types of people versus, the type of people who are resonating heavily with top 40. And that's interesting to me. And I think that to bring it back to us and what we do, what ultimately matters, no matter what our process is, trying to be like, oh, is this better what we're doing than what we were doing here? As long as we're enjoying the process and getting lost in it and being like authentic and not doing it for the sake of projecting some kind of imagined reaction from the listener, but simply going based on our reaction and what resonates with us, not only will we draw to us the kind of listener that also happens to resonate with a lot of the things we resonate with, we're having fun, and success will become an accidental byproduct of what we're doing. And I think that's the best kind of success that any artist can achieve, is that incidental success, because they're just prolific, they're hardworking, and are constantly creating art that they love creating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just, at the end of the day, like, I don't care what's better or not anymore at all. I just like what I like, because that's me. I can't actually control what I like. It doesn't matter what's better or not if I like it,
Sure.
And part of like the narrative that part of like being in Kindo is like, you know, like, you know, we're known as like being great musicians or like this, whatever people say. But like, I never said that, you know, I never, I never got into the Reign of Kindo for that. I just, in my brain, I'm making music, and I do have a responsibility to the music and to those that I'm making it with to perform it and compose it the best possible. That's my outcome. I don't like the narrative. It takes the pressure off of me. It's like, well, I have to be in the Reign of Kindo. I have to be one of the best musicians. I don't fucking care, you know? Like, I get to be in a band that I love being in and composing music I love with the people that I love. And that's it for me. And that's freeing and enables me uh, to do it. You know, do like on stage. Do I want to be the best band on stage? Yes, because I am competitive and I am in this band, and we will be the best band on stage. But that's part of excellence for me, of doing it that way. You know, presenting the music the best way possible. That's just what I do in life in general. But I try not to live up to any sort of narrative, but the one that I have. You know, the one that the motives that I'm doing this for. It's kind of jumping around, but at the end of the day, I don't care what's better. I just don't.
It's interesting, Jarvis, how you worded it. Kind of going back to what I mentioned earlier. I feel like when I mentioned to Joey, I think that this new way of writing melodies is not necessarily resulting in better melodies, just different melodies that are up to that standards. And so it's two different roads to the same destination. And I feel like you and I very often have two different roads, but to the same destination. Your mentality of we are the best band on stage. So that's what we are, and that's how in your mind you get there. I'm the exact opposite. To me, it's like we're the worst band on stage, and that's constantly the mentality that's going to keep me going to become better than that. Because,
well, it's a quantifiable goal. That is, you know what I mean. But for the most part, being the best band on the stage, like it's quantifiable. We're not saying we're the most enjoyable band, but it's like, were they tight? Did they speed up or slow down? Did they have a lot of clams? So for me, like, there is a goal that we want, and we're going to attain it, right? And we're perfectly capable of attaining it.
but do you think that's also subjective? Because if you watch a Reign of Kindo set at any point for as long as we live, if you compare it to this band, we're approaching perfection. If you compare it to this band, we're approaching amateur hour. And I think we're always going to live in that that area that is subject to what you're choosing to compare it to, or how you're choosing to perceive it. You know what I mean? Or I mean, I guess it's both. I don't disagree with you. Like, we know when we have a bad show, and we know when we have a good show, and we can say it, another show is better, or we can say we're better than that band, or we are worse than that band. But like, I'm just out of sheer interest and curiosity, and maybe some more reasons than that, I want to find a way to quantify why, Mozart's music would be better for a human being than Katy Perry's music. I feel like we're approaching enough knowledge of our psyche and our brain and our development and what a human being is becoming compared to what it was. I feel like there's enough out there to be able to say, I mean, we can do it with food, you know.
Mm-hmm.
A Big Mac will hit a lot of people much differently than a bowl of steamed broccoli. But we know without a shadow of a doubt that that bowl of steamed broccoli is better for the person, regardless of what their brain and body are telling them in the moment.
Because you can quantify why.
But that's what I'm saying. I want to discover, and I really do believe that we're approaching the capabilities of discovering why certain music would be better, would be ultimately better for your brain, for your development, than certain other music. Like, are we
Scientifically, you're saying?
yeah, scientifically, which would be a way of then definitively saying Mozart's music is better than Katy Perry's music. It's not a matter of opinion. It's not a matter of subjectivity. It doesn't matter if you hear this Katy Perry song, I kissed the girl. I don't even remember. I don't even know the melody.
We're going to offend many of our fans who love Katy Perry.
No, it's not a matter of that. I mean, I'm not trying to offend anyone that loves a Big Mac. But, like, what I'm interested in is, listen, if you truly like Katy Perry, then me saying I Mozart's better, don't be offended. That's my advice to you, is that you shouldn't allow me to offend you by saying that. But it's to me, it's really, really interesting. Like,
it's not that interesting to me, to be honest. Not really, no. I guess like what I'm saying is I just don't care.
Yeah.
You know, and
you don't care about a lot of things, but that doesn't make them not interesting to other people.
What?
I said you don't care about a lot of things, but that doesn't make them not interesting to other people. I don't care that much about the table of elements, but I can appreciate that a lot of people do and need to, and that's important, and I'm glad that they're taking care of that, you know?
From that comes many modern amenities that we benefit from. They're exactly something that I consider boring.
Exactly. And that's a great example, because as much as I don't care about it, I almost feel convicted that I don't care about it. All the supplements and the knowledge that comes from that, and I mean, that's kind of an important thing to care about. I should care about it. And you should care about music. You don't care about music. That's what you just said.
All I know is I went to the Katy Perry concert the other day and I cried.
Oh my God, you didn't.
I actually did.
Okay, well, I'm interested. You might not be interested, but I'm interested in this. Tell me what made you cry from the Katy Perry concert.
Well, the production was huge and exciting. It was like an exciting, like, oh, I was not expecting that. I went last minute, paid $23.
A lot of animal costumes all over the place on stage.
What'd you say?
A lot of animal costumes on stage.
It was one of the biggest productions I've ever seen, and that in of itself was impressive. Like,
just the scale and
the
sheer spectacle. The spectacle.
The spectacle. But truly, man, like the fact that it was awesome. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of her music, but the show was dope, and I had a great time.
I think it's important to distinguish the difference between, you know, you go to see a production like that. That falls into not the subcategory of just music. It's the bigger umbrella under which music sits, which is entertainment. And there you have visual, you have have just it's a show. Like when you go to see a Broadway spectacle, you go to see The Lion King. It's like you go to see The Lion King, and that's a great story, and it's a bad example because the music's beautiful and whatever, but you still can be like overcome with like the experience of what this production is.
Yeah.
That's a different thing, though. That's not what I'm talking about. Katy Perry has millions of dollars to spend on each show. I'm sure she's doing it in a fun way, and I'd be impressed if I was there. And I don't know what happened. I can just imagine like shark costumes rocketing across the arena and explosions and lights where you don't imagine them, and costume changes and smokes and standing there for a moment and everyone's going ballistic, and all that stuff is fun. Like, it may sound like I'm being facetious, and I'm sure there's I'm not going to deny a twinge of that.
But we just know how much you don't like to have fun.
No, I would say that's a wildly incorrect statement on your part. No, but I'm not talking about that. That's different. Like, I'm talking about listening to the music. As far as a show, yeah, that's a part of her thing, and great. You know, cool. But I'm saying listening, well, how did she even get there in the first place?
Who cares?
If she wrote a song with a kind of, you know, racy subject matter with a melody, you know, that was catchy enough, even though I don't know the song. I know of the song more than I know the song.
Kind of like that song though.
Of course you do. I know you do. Um,
But it's like the same way like when I go to a candy store and I buy gummy worms and like shit
that's
that I know is just
so
like
glad you
I
described
know
it.
what it is.
That's
I don't know
perfect.
what
I'm
it
so
is.
glad you
You know what I mean?
described it that way. Are you going to tell me, Jeff, that gummy worms are better if human beings were going to choose between water and gummy worms for consumption? They're both edible things.
Just depends if I'm thirsty. If I'm not thirsty, I want gummy worms.
Your basic needs are met. Your
Yeah.
basic nutritional needs are met. That opens you up to more frivolous forms of consumption. They don't have to be nutritious. They simply have to make all your taste buds tingle.
Yeah, and that's why freedom and individualism is so important, because I should never be in charge of dictating what Jarvis enjoys or doesn't enjoy or listens to or doesn't listen to or eats or doesn't eat. I can, if I was a nutrition specialist, I could let Jarvis know, hey, if you eat vegetables and lean protein every day, you're going to have a much better quality of physical life than if you listen to, or if you, if you eat gummy worms and drink soda every day. That might be fun, but
What's wrong with a little bit of gummy worms every now and then?
sure. But
Hey, all I'm saying, bro.
listen, the thing I want to make clear is I'm not telling you not to listen to Katy Perry. Listen to Katy Perry's to your heart's desire. But what I'm interested in is finding a way. I mean, not that I'm going to do it, but what I'd be interested in is seeing if there was ever a way to be found to say definitively, for the human experience in the long run, this kind of music is better for you, better for your brain, better for your development, better for us as a society even.
What would that do?
Some of the stuff.
But what would that do? What would that do? What would we do with that information? What would you do with
Spread
that
it.
information?
Spread it, yeah. Teach our kids that. I mean, listening to whoever, Pat Metheny, I just used him as an example. I'll keep using him. You know, if you listen to The Way Up as an album, if that's a part of a human being's life, right? If they hate it at first, but they continue to listen to it, even if you're not a musician, eventually it clicks. Eventually you develop some kind of relationship with it. What was that song about? I don't know. Someone just showed me this new trap song, and the lyrics are encouraging. Basically, a lot of the music that exists nowadays, and some of Katy Perry songs also, lyrically, that's a whole nother element to it. You know, so if you're listening to a song by the Four Tops from the 50s, that's the kind of music you like. Or if you're listening to more Katy Perry stuff, culturally, and which is an extremely significant variable, can you say definitively that a song talking about hoes or whatever else is not better or worse for us than, you know, a song from the 50s talking about whatever that's talking about?
I think what's funny is it's so relative, because in the 50s, in the context, like the Four Tops were like racy, you know, for the time. You know, they were the pop music and they were scandalous.
Yeah.
And there seems to be this obsession with our entertainers of like, how much can we push that boundary? How much shock and awe can we use? Where's the next line to cross? Everyone's looking for that next line. No one's ever asked.
They don't even realize the implications of that and the punishment on the human race because of that.
Sure.
What I perceive to be kind of a selfish desire. I mean, sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's a form of thrill seeking, and it's common that no one will ask themselves, like, should we cross this line? Should we push this envelope? And I mean, I think a lot of it comes from youth. Like, the attitude of youth is to test the establishment, to test what I've been taught. You're saying that these are the lines. Well, are they really the lines? Let's see. And then that generation puts the foot over and like, see, I'm okay. And then their next generation comes up and they're like, oh, well, you're saying the line's here. And they're like, yeah, but I'm going to put my foot here and I'm okay. And so it's this process where this one-upsmanship. So now you literally have women who went to the Women's March, but will also sing the lyrics to a trap song about how they're a bitch and they need to like shake their booty and grind up on some dude and they're disposable. They're just some bitch, just like any other bitch. And they'll be like, yay, I love a song. And then they'll be like, yeah, but women's rights. You have this kind of crazy. I saw it in a bar the other night. I was the only one laughing in the bar because I know, I mean, you just know. You can tell. It's like, I know this person's like political ideologies and their personal convictions are in direct contrast with this thing they are praising and singing and having a great time with right now. And doesn't that bother anyone? Which one is real? Which one are you? Do you believe that like women should be treated with dignity and respect, or are they just hoes to fuck? And that's all they are. Well, you're celebrating both.
At that rate,
interesting.
Okay, so maybe the better word, to use, the word that's better than better, would be healthier. Maybe there's healthy music out there.
Nutritious.
And there's unhealthy music out there. So it's not so much a case of, maybe I shouldn't say Pat Metheny's better than Katy Perry. Maybe I should just say Pat Metheny's a little healthier than Katy Perry. Listen to Katy Perry. How can I'm not going to like judge anyone if that's what they enjoy. I might judge Jarvis a little bit, but outside of Jarvis, I'm not going to judge anybody else. Katy Perry. Enjoy Katy Perry. But know that it's not as healthy as Mozart.
I would never make that argument. I also wouldn't care to make that argument either. It's a matter of like, we all have a certain sense of awareness about ourselves. I think it's entirely possible that what Joey witnessed, like we witnessed Joe at the bar, where their political ideologies don't match up with what they're doing in the moment. Like, they might not be completely aware of that. They might be aware of that and don't know how to reconcile that. But I don't know. For me, like, I know what I'm doing and why. When I eat a McDonald's Big Mac, I'm never doing it because it's healthy. I'm doing it because I just want that and I want pleasure.
100%. And you have that right, and you should. A McDonald's shouldn't not be allowed to make a Big Mac.
Right.
It was lyrics to it was karaoke. That's where I was. Karaoke, and these girls were singing the song.
So
and they say don't judge a book by its cover, and like you don't want to prejudge people. But I think I'm old enough now that I can look at two girls hanging out, and I can dial in pretty easily based on where they are and what they're doing as to what their leanings are. And I'm reading these lyrics, man, and I'm astonished that this isn't being sung in public, much less by two women who. I gotta find the song. I gotta find the lyrics. It was a laughably interesting moment. And I just got to wonder that, these are the kinds of political ideologies that celebrate being outraged at any signs of disrespect or demeaning towards women. Donald Trump says, grab her by the pussy. and everyone's like, oh, but literally our trap songs are pretty much, or our modern music is pretty much saying that. And we're celebrating that. So why is that okay? And we celebrate that. But if we have like a potential leader of the free world, like that's not acceptable for that. Now, I know the answer to that question is obvious to you and I. I don't think either is okay. I think both are horrible. But why do so many people make such a grave exception to the thing that is shaping the culture of our people? Why is there such an exception made? And that's what I'm interested in. Like, is it just because it's sweet? It's a Big Mac, it's a chicken nugget, it's a Whopper. It just tastes so good. So like, as long as you put that, like, hide the shit in the cake, in the candy, like, you don't know you're eating it. Is that what it is? Is it something like that? I don't know.
I think that. Sorry, were you talking, Jeff?
Yeah, but go ahead.
I think that a lot of this new cultural mentalities and the sort of what we're calling the progressive, sort of liberal ways of thinking, the things to get mad at, the people to get mad at in defense of women. All these things are so removed from reality, in my humble opinion. It's easy to get angry, if I don't know. It's always so dicey to talk about this stuff, and I say that rolling my eyes because it's so touchy, but that's almost even kind of my point. It shouldn't be touchy. Like the things that we've gone into, like using your example, with women's rights and feminism and all of that stuff, you can observe that there isn't really an oppression to women in our society. While there may be like disparities, there's not a forceful, evil, barbaric oppression of women, especially compared to any time in history. So, but if a lot of women are feeling that way, then they'll go out and they'll march, they'll be vehement, but then they can go live their lives, and there's this sense of like, no, I'm actually fine. I'm actually free. I'm actually an adult. I'm actually not inhibited in the way that I was caught up in the moment and believing when I was screaming about something. So I can go to a bar, I can sing this song, I can be removed from that part of it. I can have fun because that stuff is almost recreational. If there was an actual oppression, it would be a 24-hour thing because they wouldn't be able to live their lives normally.
Sure.
Am I making any sense? Like, because you're ultimately able to live your life normally, there's not such an oppression that you can't even have basic rights as a human being. Well, then if you're out drinking and you're with your friends and now everything's like fun, you're going to be singing those lyrics because you forgot at that moment that you're a part of this fight. Because people that were a part of those fights in the past, they didn't have the leisure to just get lost in a moment with their friends and have fun and be cool. Like, their whole life was bogged down, and they didn't forget it 24 hours a day. It was their life. It wasn't like it wasn't a sort of recreational anger where it's like in our society these days, we're so bored. We're half our day spent scrolling on sites, and we're looking to satiate this appetite for so there's that fight, and there's that world, and there's all of these fights against whatever oppression that you can get caught up on, and the emotion of how angry you are at this person or this group or what this person said. Oh my God, I can't believe he said that. But then you put your phone down and you're fine, and you live your life, and for the most part nobody bothers you. And So in my opinion, that's why in that state of, oh, actually you're fine, you will find women singing the words to that song, because lo and behold, you don't feel in reality so oppressed that this song is gonna be abhorrent to you. You know, that's why a lot of women voted for or didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, because in reality, they're not just looking at any women, please, any woman. It doesn't matter who it is. It's like a lot of women are like, no, it does matter who it is, and that's a sign that we're headed somewhere good. You know, that people are realizing that, and a lot more people, more and more people every day are realizing the dangers of identity politics than not.
Sure. Yeah, I bet you no one.
I'm just trying to answer your question succinctly, very shortly. You know, I'm not, long story short, I'm not trying to talk much. So
Yeah, I doubt you would. You'd be hard pressed
short
to
version.
find a woman who actually like made a difference during the women's suffrage movement. The women who are responsible for women having rights today, those women, you would be hard pressed to find them singing songs about their celebrating their objectification. You know, like we have today. You know, I mean, these songs are abhorrent. These lyrics are offensive. They're offensive to me, and I'm not a woman, so I can't imagine. I don't understand. I don't really comprehend being a woman and then like singing these lyrics and then like, yeah. To me, it's like it's insane. It's really insane.
There has to be an element, I would imagine, of even though you don't necessarily agree or like what it represents, there's an element of feeling like it's kind of exciting, right? Like,
Sure.
if we're listening to a song about fast life and popping pills and I don't give a fuck and I'm going to do whatever I want.
It's the forbidden fruit.
Yeah, like you listen to a song like that, I think it's ridiculous. But sometimes there's a line or two that I'm like, that's kind of clever, you know, like I kind of like that. Don't agree with that. So I kind of imagine that there's also an internal struggle between, like, on a base level, a biology level, kind of like what we enjoy for better or worse or are attracted to may not be
what's best for us.
Yeah. Or what we cognitively align with, right? So we can kind of use entertainment as an outlet for that.
That's interesting.
Sort of a safe one, seemingly.
Well, seemingly safe.
Yeah.
I think it's heavily subversive, and the fruit is very.
It's more damaging. I think it's more damaging than we allow ourselves to believe. But when
I wouldn't use the word safe at all. I mean, that's the stuff that shapes culture more than most other things, you know?
It is. But in the moment, you can't. It's not detectable. It's not immediately detectable. You know, it's like
because you're with your friends, you're drunk at a karaoke bar with 6 of your best friends. It's fine. We're fine. We don't agree with this,
right.
But isn't this fun? And then, like, you know, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that it is safe.
If anything, it impacts like dude culture a lot more because you have this sort of mentality amongst a lot of males, very testosterone-driven males, who it's just easier for them to objectify women. Like women are just things they are trying to fuck all the time, and that's their main relationship with women is that, right? And so then that lyric comes on and continues to reinforce, like, yeah, women are just things. Women aren't really people. They're just something for you to have sex with, and so you got to play this game to have sex with them. And once you do that, like, who cares about on to the next, you know? It's like, if anything, it's like really polluting what it means to be an honorable man in today's society. And that is enhanced when you have that guy who sees the girl singing and like, yeah, I love this song. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go fuck her and then get rid of her. Like, she's totally done. She knows she's an object, just like the song says, you know? It's just like, and then, of course, inevitably, that girl hooks up with that guy, gets left on the curb, you know, for lack of a better expression, and doesn't know why men are pigs. Like, I don't understand, you know, like everyone's confused why things are the way they are. Whatever. I don't have the answer here. All I know is that shit sucks and I hate it. And I think it needs to go away. That's my opinion.
I think it's also like one of the reasons that reality TV shows and things like that are popular. In a way, it's a chance for for us or people that enjoy that, whatever, to play out the drama in their lives that they wish was there, that they would never partake in or are relating to. Like, we as humans find different ways to just play out the stories we know. That's it. Just play out the same narratives, the same stories. We're creatures of habit. We're unaware of it. And I think that that's part of it with this. It's, it's not good or safe.
It's an unawareness. There's a lack of awareness to what's happening.
I think so.
Yeah, but I mean, I think then if we're having conversations like this, we need to have them with more people or people. I mean, I think that for people not to be aware, that's not going to be an excuse for much longer. I mean,
I don't think it's an excuse.
It never works as an excuse.
No.
It's a reason, but that doesn't change the consequence of what's happening.
And if you're talking to somebody who's not aware, like, they're just not going to hear the conversation,
Well, I mean, it's still worth having it. I would love to talk to as many of my guy friends as possible, and we talk about it very often in the van. Where like this promotion of that, what Joe was talking about earlier, like, guys will be guys. Guys only care about one thing. Guys, like, that should not be accepted. That should be seen as detestable behavior. A guy trying to manipulate a woman for her body to do whatever he wants to do. I mean, everybody is in charge of their own life. Make the decisions you want to make. But when I see or hear of people just talking about women like they're disposable, like Joey said, yeah, I don't care. Yeah. Oh, I didn't even have to give her my number. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, move it. I mean, I see that as unhealthy behavior for our society. I worry for my sister. I tell her all the time, don't trust anyone. Like, you need to find a guy that respects you and that treats you like he would treat his sister. That mentality is unpopular and it's hard to do nowadays. And I think that if me feeling the way I feel, I should be talking about it more. I should be telling more people. I should be pushing that. If I believe that to be true, it's not that I think everyone should think like me, but if one side of something's being promoted, then the other side of it should be promoted as well. Like,
I guess
you're not a bad person if you have a lot of sex with a lot of people, but there are really, really severe consequences to that behavior, and we should be aware of that. Instead of watching someone like Barney on How I Met Your Mother and laughing hysterically at everything he does, you think that you can separate very easily that from real life. But I think, like we were saying earlier, I think it's a lot more subversive than people think. And normalizing certain things in our everyday programming definitely leads to an emulation of that in real life, which leads to way more problems, which leads to way more anxiety and depression, complication, and this and that. And it's like, is this really like the way we want to go?
A good question, or a better one that I'm thinking of, is like, how do we reconcile with those parts of us that relate to those things, right? Like, because I'm not gonna lie, like, I do not agree with that stuff at all. But there's some things that I'm like, oh, they're at a base level. There's something in me that relates to that, right?
So it's a human male thing. Urge to, like,
sure,
have a sexual drive.
But all I'm saying is, like, there are things that are a part of us that are just a part of us that we're trying to change, and is kind of innate as just being a human being. It's not all pretty. That's the thing. We are not cookie cutter. We're at a base level. There's a lot of shit in everyone. And how we reconcile with that, to think that, because I think these thoughts that I have no control over, does that make me a bad person? Do you have these thoughts too? You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's kind of, that's what it's about. It's like, oh, you think that sometimes?
But there's a difference, though, between acknowledging you have thoughts and celebrating,
well, of course,
the, like, objectification of women.
That's what I was saying, is like, like, I'm not saying that that's the best way, a good way to do it, but it's coming from that place of how do I reconcile with myself?
Do you think so? Because I think it's like, I think it's monkey see, monkey do. I think it's whoever wrote those lyrics rolls with the crew that's how they think, and that monkey sees how those monkeys think and says, this is how it is. And so then that's the lyrics, you know, like, bitches ain't shit. And then the monkeys who listen to the music in the bar are like, yeah, bitches aren't shit, yay. And then it propagates that way, you know?
I believe it's everything. It's that too. You know what I mean? Like,
it's just untested. Like, no one's challenging it, you know? And
I'm not that type of person that is like, oh, that guy said bitches ain't shit, so they're not, right?
No, it's more like, are they? Are bitches nothing but shit? Like, am I really gonna just join in the chorus like everyone else is? Like, maybe I'll stop and really just kind of take stock in what this idea is before just blindly like, well, everyone else is doing it, so here we go. You know, there's something to be said for being vigilant about what you allow to pass through your mind and what you adopt as your own ideology. And it's important to realize this is happening all the time, whether you're aware of it or not. Every television program you watch, every song you listen to, every article you read, everything you scroll through on Facebook is going in here, and it stays in here. And if you're not conscious of it, it's in there.
Did you guys grow up in the church?
Huh?
I was like, did you guys grow up in the church or something?
Sure. What does that have to do with this?
That's such an annoying implication.
We obviously did.
No, there's people that didn't grow up in the church that have just as much common sense as what we're saying.
I know, but you derailed it. So I left the church because of the very process that I'm implementing now to scrutinize this behavior now. You know, it's the same faculty. I'm being critical.
I didn't mean to derail. It was a simple joke because, you know, don't watch secular TV, don't listen to secular
I'm not
music.
saying any of that.
I'm not saying that, dude. Like, I'm saying as a society, I think we should have a little more responsibility with what we're presenting to each other and what we're normalizing as certain behavior. And if you, as an adult, decide to, like I said, who am I to tell anybody else what to do with something like sex? If you want to have sex with a different person every day for the rest of your life, or if you want to do what Barney did on How I Met Your Mother, and have sex, what was it, 30 girls in a month, like whatever it was, or I don't know, it was something like that, or the perfect week or something, a different girl every day for 7 days. Like, you can laugh at that, it can be in a sitcom and you can kind of write it off, but to Joey's point earlier, I think that that's more and more eroding what is normal sexual behavior. Oh, Barney, that guy. And I guarantee you, since then, whether joking or not, some people have tried to emulate that. And it's one thing to, again, if you want to do that, I'm not saying don't watch that show. I'm not saying don't do what's on that show. I'm just saying I don't think that I guess by saying I don't think that show should be doing that, I am kind of saying that.
If you're gonna watch that show or watch anything that spreads that idea, that spreads the disconnect between sexuality and emotion and psychological health, you just be aware of what it is. Like, this isn't real. This is scripted, and if I'm gonna watch it, I'm gonna be aware of what it is. And I think most people just don't practice any awareness when they consume mass amounts of media. They're just going in here, and now I think this, you know, like, and they don't know that's why they think that that's their thought, you know, like they think like, oh, I've just always been like a suave person who, you know, wants to screw lots of chicks, and I've always been this way. It's like, no, like, no one is the way they are because they're just that way. Right. It's because you've been fed a certain stream of ideas your entire life, and now you are the culmination of that. And the more you can be aware that, the more ideas you expose yourself to, I think you should expose yourself to all kinds of ideas, but consciously. I'm talking about the unconscious consumption of this media. The unconscious, like, oh yeah, this song's on karaoke, I'm just gonna sing it. Like, you're not even conscious of what you're actually celebrating. What's happening here? People are just in this stupor, and it's just downloading garbage into their brain, and then act out the garbage. It corrupts their operating system. And so I think we're monkeys. Like, my thoughts aren't original that I'm having. Like, even now, like, I'm expressing thoughts. This comes from like ancient wisdom of like a good way to live. So I think, and so I've experienced in my 36 years of being alive, like this seems to be like a sound way to live. And that's why I'm expressing it with much enthusiasm. But this isn't my original idea to live this way or to scrutinize what you put into your brain.
Right.
This is a time-tested technique to living a better life. And so
I think that's the best. That's the point right there. Is we just need to realize we're a lot more influenced and affected by outside stimulation than we are willing to admit or believe. It doesn't make us a weak person. It just makes us a person in general.
But it's hard because I agree with that, and then so you could conclude by what I'm saying that I believe How I Met Your Mother shouldn't be there, or I believe that song we're talking about shouldn't be there. And in my opinion, it shouldn't be there per se, but I also believe I don't have a right to stop somebody from putting it there. I don't think the person making that song should be censored from making that song. I don't think that, however racy or demeaning to women or vulgar a show is or whatever, that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be played. But I think that basically what I'm trying to say, yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. It's like, in light of all that stuff, keep your head about you. Keep the knowledge that copying behavior or normalizing certain behavior is not going to be without its consequences in the real world, just because it's without its consequences in this song or in this TV show. And to me, it's not a matter of judging someone for living a certain way, but I can't have that much I'm not even going to say sympathy, because I have been confronted with people that have dealt with absolute tragedy because of decisions that they made. It doesn't make me not feel compassion. It's like, I've made stupid decisions before, and if I didn't have people in my life to see past that and know that I am not my decisions, I would be, I don't know what would have happened. I mean, it's important that every single human being, you know, you're not a bad person for doing XYZ, but what I can't relate to is the confusion that comes from that. When I'm talking to somebody who's riddled with anxiety because of this situation, and I ask them to unfold and unpack the situation to me, and there's, well, I got this involved. I got so intimately connected with this person that I didn't know at all. Now I'm dealing with all this drama and all this craziness. I don't know what happened. It's like, what do you mean you don't know what happened? Like, if you get as intimate as is humanly possible in a physical way, which is very hard to separate from an emotional or psychological way, and you don't know anything about that person or the situation or where they come from, that looks normal and fun on TV. But in real life, what happens? Oh my God, you're pregnant and this person left and you didn't know who they were. Now where are you? Oh my God, this person, you thought you were in love with them after 2 weeks. And now what happens? You know, all this craziness. It's like, some of that you can't avoid in life, no matter what kind of decisions you're making. But what I don't relate to in the state of our society today is the confusion that comes with, like, oh my God, I don't know what happened. Like, I met them on Tinder 3 weeks ago and everything was amazing, but like now everything's going crazy. And I'm like,
Well,
I mean,
I think it's important that that's why we have people in our lives and in general to be a mirror, you know, like it's the best we can do. Like Joe, in that situation that you witnessed, like there's pretty much strangers, I'm assuming, you know, but if they were your friends and you had rapport with them, it would be fair enough to go up to them and be a mirror and be like, hey, it's weird, right? If you look at yourself, that's weird, right?
I never do it with my friends because I feel like we've got a relationship that merits, like, hey, I care about how we as friends think on these things and maybe just consider this. And not that, like, I think you're a bad person for it, but I think it's a healthy thing we have to watch out for each other.
Like
with everything I said today, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
The hard thing is like how can I say everything I've said today and I don't come across like some kind of judgmental, arrogant person telling people they should live like me?
Right.
I don't live like how I think, like I don't live what I preach all the time. So that's one thing, is I'll be the first to say that I fall short of my own ideals and my own expectations and what I think, how I think a man should view a woman, how I think a man should treat a woman, how I think is the best way to treat your fellow man as a human being. All of these things that I think should be the goal as a human, I fall short of that too. So I'll say that right off the bat. I'll say everyone comes from a different place, has a different situation, doesn't have all of the capabilities to make the right decision every time. But like, how can everything I've said today, how can I separate that from being judgmental, judgy? That's like the word all the time. It's like, well, who are you to judge me? I'm not trying to judge you, but we should be honest with each other about what we think is best for everyone, right? Like, can I do that without being an asshole?
Well,
Did I not do that today? Was I an asshole today? Like, I don't even know anymore.
That requires you to shelve your sort of self-consciousness in the matter. Like you have to make yourself free to. You have to be okay with people thinking you're judgmental. I think that's what it boils down to, because people are going to think that, and people are going to think I'm judgmental, and I have to be okay with that. Right. It's just part of the territory of like expressing this side of the aisle,
Right.
It's usually met with that kind of opposition, like, oh, you're just a close-minded, judgmental person. No, I know your type. It's like, cast me whatever you want, but God forbid you listen to me and engage me in a conversation. We might have a productive event.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
I think maybe we could open it up to some of our patrons here who are patiently watching.
One last thing, Joey, before we do that I just want to touch on what you just said, because I was thinking it earlier, but it was exactly that. And I think that it's a really important point to leave off on. So this hurricane in Puerto Rico has been a big ordeal for my family because I'm Puerto Rican. We have a lot of family in Puerto Rico. It's been a big thing, right? And it's interesting when something touches you a little more personally and close to home. You kind of see what everyone else is saying about it a little bit differently, just naturally.
Yeah.
And more than usual, I was so upset with socially what ensued from this situation. And everyone was hating on everyone. Basically, I found myself being a little more emotionally responsive to everyone. Like, I got so mad when Donald Trump dedicates a golf tournament trophy to the people of Puerto Rico. I'm like, are you serious? But then I was equally as embarrassed when the mayor of San Juan's wearing, like, you're talking about, we don't have supplies, we don't have water, this and that, and you went out and you made a custom t-shirt that like says we are dying, help us, like, and you're going on TV and saying all these things. I'm embarrassed and then I'm just angry at everyone because in a matter of days I see people divided, coming to Trump's rescue, coming to this mayor's rescue, having all these opinions. Now, and then what happened on Saturday Night Live, I hate that show more than anything. And I found myself all that to say, I found myself getting so emotionally responsive to all these people. And then I specifically, the other day, was thinking, why am I mad at anyone? That's not the right question. Why am I like reducing any of these people down to this one thing that I had an emotional response to and leaving it at that? And I found myself just, making these conclusive statements about all these things. And I'm like, if I could sit down with Donald Trump or with this mayor or any of the writers on Saturday Night Live, could I look at them like open-minded, with an open mind? Could I sit down, have a conversation with them, be open to being misguided in my emotions myself, hearing more of a background for why they think the way that they do? And I wanted to get myself emotionally to a place where the answer to that question would be yes. And I think that is so important, and that's the key. Like, if you think that you couldn't sit down with anybody and treat them with respect and be open-minded to what they have to say, then I think the problem is with you. I think if you're so angry with somebody that you're not even going to be able to deal with them, I think that's on you. And I think everybody should be, if I disagree with you, I should want to talk with you even more than with somebody that I agree with, because we're both going to walk away. If it goes well, one of us is going to change our minds for a reason that now our opinion, we're going to have so much more of a conviction with, or we're both going to make sense to each other, be a little more balanced in our conviction, because balance is so key to everything. I mean, there's nothing but good that can come from a fruitful conversation with someone you disagree with. So I think that's so important. That's so important too, is to always emotionally be on guard. Like, am I just angry and hating and just getting worked up because of whatever personal tie to it? Because that's what was happening. I was getting mad at everyone. I was just like, listen, if you don't have any family on Puerto Rico, if you're not, then just go away. Don't even talk about it. Don't use it as an excuse to hate Trump even more. Don't use it as an excuse to defend Trump even more. Don't use it as fodder for a comedy show to get your other agenda that has, it was like, I felt like the hurricane was being used by everyone. And so with that emotion, I was just angry. And I realized I had to take a step back and be like, no, of course everybody cares. There's no one out there that's not going to truly care about the situation. They're just all doing it in ways, and who can't ultimately bring something, who doesn't ultimately bring something else in to prove what you feel about something else. I can't look at that. I can't take it so personal. So I just wanted to wrap up by saying, regardless of what you hear, regardless of what I say, regardless of whatever is out there, it's important that we keep emotions at bay as best we can and be open to every perspective. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to truly progress.
I like what Maynard said. I think, Joe, you told me Maynard said this. He's in the get off my lawn stage of life right now.
Of his career, yeah.
Of his career. Love that. I'm kind of getting more and more there, too. Like, I'm really just realizing there's not much I can do other than my sphere of influence and the people that I directly influence. And the rest of it, I just get off my lawn. Fuck off. I don't care.
Sure. That's well said, Stephen. Let's open it up to our friends here who have been patiently watching us debate back and forth on these things. Do you guys have any questions and or comments that you might want us to address? I know you've been writing here. I see you guys have been writing as we've been talking, but I don't necessarily know if you want to continue on the topic. So anyone, fire away and let us know, and we'll hit you up.
There was Marlon. Yeah, I was actually going to make that statement when Steve was talking about Barney, that, to be fair, the show did not paint him in the best light.
Sure.
That it was his friends thought it was disgusting, and
no, I've seen the show. They laughed at it, or there was a kind of, oh, this guy. Like, there were moments throughout the show that,
at the end of the day, they love him and they want what's best for him, and they're not ostracizing him on his broken behavior. You know, it's a story about friendship.
No, man. Like, they weren't. No, they were. Whatever. It's not a worthy conversation, in my opinion. I only watched through the show once years ago. I don't really remember much.
We have a comment from Leandro, who says, "I just think most of the people in general don't take music so serious like that. They don't think about the background of it. They just want to have some fun and have a good time."
I agree.
I think that's true. And I think that ultimately, that is what I want music to be. I don't want to be cerebral with music. I when I listen to music, I just want to enjoy it as well. And that could be an explanation for why music bypasses people's ideological guard. You know, that's maybe why two young 20-something girls, you know, who likely did the Women's March and, you know, and stand on that side of the aisle, will openly, publicly sing these horrible, abhorrent lyrics objectifying women and celebrating it, because music does have a power to shut down the guard and possess you. But I will say that that is all the more reason to be a bit more vigilant about it. And it's funny hearing myself say this, because this is what my mom used to say to me when she wouldn't let me listen to certain music when I was growing up, when it had swear words or it was too sexually charged. You know, I used to think that was ridiculous. I just loved the beat. That's why I wanted to listen to it. You know, it was just like, I was digging it. It was just, the music was so cool. But then, you know, now that I'm 36 and seeing how easily I'm influenced by ideas and how subversive music is and how powerful it is because of that, that's something that's important to be aware of, if you can be. I mean, I think everyone can be. And I think that the more you spread awareness, well, the more awareness there is. But I think you're right, Leandro. Most people just want to have a good time. And I am amongst those people. I do just want to have a good time. But sometimes that good time is interrupted by other people trying to have a good time. And their good time ruins your good time. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Let's see. Michelle Eileen Mortel, how much do you love Katy Perry? I agree with what Michelle said.
With Cupcake. Okay, Michelle, who, full disclosure, is a friend of ours, says,
I went to the concert with her.
Oh yeah, they went to Jeff and Michelle went to the concert together. Which is why when Katy Perry is flying around with cupcakes and kittens, it makes me laugh and have fun and turn off the 47,392 things I'm anxious about in life. There are too many serious things. And I think that is a good observation. That ultimately is why I love music. I don't listen to music to think about the bigger things in life. I think it is part of living and part of enjoying this existence, and that's why it's so powerful and why it's so sacred to me. But I think because it is so powerful, there's a great responsibility that comes with making it and distributing it, especially if it embodies dangerous ideas or damaging ideas.
Right.
Again, I'm all for free speech. You should be able to do whatever you want. I will never be an advocate for censorship, but I do advocate conscious decision-making and conscious art that is not simply a reckless embodiment. I believe you can make wildly entertaining music that does not negatively subvert the psychological health of our entire species. I think that's possible. And I think it should be more of the aim, in my opinion, of the top echelon of pop entertainers.
Yeah. And this was funny. I was thinking, as you were saying what Michelle said, the other thing, I mean, I guess this has always been a thing with music, but now more so than ever, there's never just a song. There's never just the music, even off stage. It's like people arguably have way more exposure to a musician's personal life and antics and develop a relationship with that that's almost as important with the one with the music. So if Katy Perry is always wearing these hilarious, cute outfits, or if she's, I don't know that much about Katy Perry, but if she's always like doing these fun things and you know, wearing these fun styles and I don't know, like that will definitely deepen somebody's relationship and give them a positive experience that has nothing to do with the music. And that's definitely a huge variable that I didn't account for earlier, because nobody just listens to Katy Perry's music. They will, but they're also following her on something. They're also hearing what she says about things. There's this whole package that comes along that makes the music something totally different than it would have been just on its own if it wasn't Katy Perry, or if there wasn't this personality that came with it that had nothing to do with the music.
Sure.
And that makes a lot of people really happy. Like you said, Joe, if it's not, if it's not done in some kind of irresponsible way, then that's something that is huge for people getting that whole experience,
Leander, I love that comment. Hey guys, don't be a pain in the ass. It's just music. Don't bother at all.
To read the full comment, just so that Leander is properly represented, he says, "Yeah, I totally agree with Joey, but I think if people were listening to this conversation right now, they will just say, 'Hey guys, don't be a pain in the ass. It's just music. Don't bother at all.'" I agree with that, Leandro. I think most people would say that if they were listening to this conversation, and hopefully, not being a pain in the ass to them, only to the people who are enjoying our pain in the ass by listening to this conversation.
Obviously I think a certain way, but I align more along the lines of that too. I mean, the conversations are interesting because it helps me figure out exactly what I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I align with that too. It's like at the end of the day, for me, I'm making a conscious choice on what I'm doing, and I'm only responsible for that. I'm only responsible for myself. And yeah, it sucks that there are monkeys out there, but what am I going to do?
Well, you're one of those monkeys. That's the thing. We're all monkeys. That's the important thing. That's the whole point of this conversation, is recognize your monkeyness. You're also monkey see, monkey do. So when you listen to and see, then you start thinking and doing, and people's egos try to convince themselves that not them, not me. I'm not a monkey. I'm a person. I have my ideas, and those are above the monkeyness. But all that comes from your own monkeyness. And the sooner you humble yourself to that, the sooner you realize the importance of being vigilant and guarding your mind against certain things, and scrutinizing ideas that could be damaging to your way of life. I think that's my ultimate point, is like, hey, we're all monkeys. So like, don't pretend like you're some demigod above all of this. Like, we are all susceptible to being subverted by music, media, social media, news, you name it, movies, shows, everything you watch. Like, it changes you. It's going to influence you, and those who do not admit that are the most influenced, because now they're completely unconscious of how they're being influenced. I think if I was to summarize what I'm preaching, it would be, just know that everything you do and interact with affects you, and you're not above it. Like, you're not above anything. It's all going to influence you. So it's important to be aware of everything you're around. Let's see here. We've got a couple more fun comments. Marlon says, as Joe Rogan says, we're just talking monkeys in space. Succinctly put. Adventure Archives says, yeah, I think we like to think we're not susceptible to advertisements, but then why would the advertising industry even exist if we weren't affected by it? That is such a good, poignant point. There is a reason why companies spend billions of dollars on advertising. It's because it works. It works so well. I remember Jeff on this tour was talking to how he needed to buy a new mattress. And so what did I recommend to him? I recommended to him Casper mattresses. Not because I own a Casper mattress, but because I've seen nothing but tons of Casper mattress ads and online ads about how great Casper mattresses are for the past year and a half, because they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars making sure that I saw those advertisements. And they obviously made an impression, because I endorsed something I didn't even use based on advertising that I wasn't even really asking to see. It's just because I ride the subway, and so now I think Casper Mattress is a good company because I see them everywhere. Oh, unfounded. Other than that, the only reason Jeff bought a Casper mattress is because they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars advertising to me and to him, and so that is a very real point. I think that coincides with the idea of we don't like to admit that we are susceptible to things like that, but we are. Ads work. They, however annoying or clever, they work. Now you can't not know Casper mattresses exist, and here I am endorsing them and not getting paid to endorse them to you guys. So that's how much advertising works. Now you guys might buy a Casper mattress because they spend a lot of money for you to consider it. Let's see. So I think maybe we have time for one more question here, and then we're hitting that 2-hour mark. It doesn't have to be related to anything we're talking about, by the way. If you guys are sick of this conversation, that's fair enough. So any other question or comment to wrap this puppy up? And let's see here. Marlon says, self-awareness and being secure with yourself is the only chance you have at resisting media manipulation. It's all crafted to prey on your insecurities. Succinctly put, Marlon. Am I saying your name right? Marlon? Marlon or Marlon?
My advertising works.
Yeah. And Michelle says, and why my boyfriend wears One Man Parade beard oil every single day, because Jarvis's advertising works. Lucas says, so tour was good? Lucas, tour was complicated, but it was good. We accomplished what we set out to. Enjoyed playing the shows, enjoyed meeting people. It was a very hard tour. It was 5 of us with no crew, and it was exhausting. I think I slept for 2 weeks when I got home, pretty much. But yeah, it was good, man. Thank you for asking. Leandro says, I'm loving this conversation, by the way. I share the same thoughts of yours. I really appreciate your approach on things about our lives. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in and resonating with us. And as we continue down these rabbit holes, it's good to have people to bounce ideas off of and to consider other points of view other than the 3 of ours, which can be limited sometimes. So we look forward to continuing these kinds of conversations. I just enjoy them, and yeah, as long as we don't tire of them, we'll continue doing it. I suppose on that note, we should wrap her up. What do you say?
Let's do it.
We'll probably do another one of these to get more in depth on Let Me Be and that song composition. I'm going to try and do an audio-only version of this where I can maybe clean it up and post it for the $5 patrons. Catching up on handwritten lyrics, and we should be good to go by the end of this month. So really appreciate you guys joining us.
Love you guys.
Hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. And yeah, I guess we'll see you next time. We're gonna maybe do a live stream. We're doing a writing retreat next weekend, so look out for that. We'll probably do another live stream there to interact with you as we're creating new music. So very exciting stuff.
Grape jelly, man.
Yeah. Love you guys so much and really appreciate you supporting us. We can't do what we do without you. It's really incredible. So we will continue to think of new fun ways to engage with you and hear from you. Yeah.
So glad you guys enjoyed this. It was super fun. Thank you. See you soon.
Yep.
That's a bye, right? You're saying bye?
That's bye.
Bye.